being flooded with comments, questions and queries from you at home and on Twitter here, basically asking the Minister questions about things that are happening within the Home Affairs Department. So I'm not going to waste any more time. We have the Minister who agreed to stay on and answer a couple of questions. We're going to get straight into those. Minister Gigaba, thank you for being with us. Here is one from, I think it's Disciple, saying, is it possible for the Minister to employ social workers who will deal with those difficult and again, I imagine complicated cases that needs follow-ups and reports from social workers to make it simple for our people who are sent up and down to get ID documents? Minister?
You know, it's not necessary because our officials are well equipped to deal with those cases. The problem is often lack of patience, sometimes on the ground, but we do cooperate with social workers from the Department of Social Development to resolve those queries. I know for a fact because I've interacted with a number of them.
Okay, all right, there you go. Let's get another question. I'm going to go through these quite fast because hopefully they'll be your questions as well. Another one from Raz saying, please ask the Minister what he's doing about corrupt officials, especially at the Pretoria office, who make thousands of rands daily. Wow. Okay, that's Raz saying Pretoria. I've read a couple of other offices in my tweets that I have as well. Minister, corruption.
We do have a number of offices in Pretoria. It would be helpful if Raz told us exactly what query is he referring to, what type of corruption, what official is he referring to, because we cannot just go to all our officials and say you are all involved in corruption. If you look at 2017, for example, there were only 33 officials out of about 10,000 officials that we have that were involved in corruption. So the overwhelming majority of our officials are not involved in corruption. If there are any officials involved in corruption, we would really appreciate it if the complainants told us so that we can deal with it. And we promise that we will deal with it promptly and to the satisfaction of the client, but with fairness and justice.
Yeah, I mean, there's talk of border posts as well, the corruption at border posts. I mean, that is something also very, very big. I mean, I've got the one story my producer was telling about ordinary citizens reporting they couldn't be helped by the staff on the 27th of April because it was a holiday, until the bus driver had to collect 50 rand from each passenger to give to officials for their passports to be stamped.
That was precisely the reason we arrested 22 officials at the Maseru border post.
All right.
And that's why the official that was on WhatsApp at Bait Bridge has been suspended and is undergoing disciplinary hearing. Once we are told, we also do have our own Operation Visa Masina, an internal investigation of corruption and fraud in the department. And that's where we are able to get a number of corruption and fraud cases and investigate and take action against our officials and members of the public. Yeah. There have been 11 cases that have been dealt with since the beginning of this year, 11 officials that have been charged with corruption and suspended. And so we are taking action against corruption. We maintain the view that we have zero tolerance towards corruption in the department. So
report. You see it, report it. That's the moral of the story. And action will be taken, including arrest on those officials. Another tweet, let's put that up on screen now so we can read this from another viewer. Peter Mlambo saying, I don't think to blame the Minister for long queues at Home Affairs is fine. I have been to a few Home Affairs, including Desmond Tutu, and you can see that the staff is there, but people are just too many for them. Staff have to be increased to have a better service. And this is something that I have read from hundreds of tweets, literally hundreds of tweets, saying, please, Minister, there are too many people for the staff to handle them. And the issue of, and it's happened to me, are you standing there and suddenly, sorry, the computers are offline, there's nothing we can do?
You know, it's not only the number of staff that we have, it's also just, we have 411 offices of Home Affairs across the country for 56 million people.
Yeah.
That is just plain inadequate. I have raised this with the Minister of Finance, that my concern, especially with winter coming, is that you're going to have minor children standing in chilly weather of winter, and you're going to have elderly people. I do not want to see fatalities at the queues at Home Affairs.
Yeah.
We really working with National Treasury and Public Works, have to get behind this thing and solve it. That's why we're trying to expedite the solution with the banks. We're increasing the mobile units and other innovative solutions so that we can save many people away from our offices to reduce the queues at our offices. But we have 411 offices. Out of those, only 184 are live capture offices, which means they can take smart ID card applications. The majority of them cannot. And so people go to the offices which can take smart card offices, and it's 184 of them. Yeah. We will increase them by about another 30 this year. But even if we increase them, many of our offices are completely unsuitable. They are small. Whatever you can do, you cannot grow it bigger, you cannot refurbish it. You actually need a new office altogether. And these are the issues that I am dedicating all my energy, and as well as the Director General to, so that we can solve them, because we need to expand the footprint of Home Affairs and ensure that people can get their services closer to where they are as quickly as possible, conveniently.
I'm glad you addressed the smart card, because that's come up from a few people saying, you know, I want my smart card ID, but there's only a handful that can actually do that. I've got a wrap, because apparently we've got to go to sports news, although I don't even see Valen, so I'm going to steal another minute. There she is. I was lying. But Minister, I'm going to quickly get off the case of that, and we'll bring you in again to answer more questions, but I hope we've addressed as many as we can. There's something I need to ask you, though. There's an update on the Gupta story. You're here. I've just read about it this morning. AJ Gupta in India. We don't know the purpose of his visit, but what I'm reading, and this is from our correspondent for the SABC in India, saying he has several summons pending against him with regard to income tax raids conducted at Gupta properties in India. It's unclear or unknown if he will respond to these summons. Any update? Can you give us any update from a South African perspective on the Guptas and what is happening with them, and just to give us in the loop as to this family and where they are, their whereabouts and accountability?
Well, we at Home Affairs will not know where they are, but we are working with the Hawks, the police and the prosecutors, the NDPP, in order to bring them back to the country to face their charges. I have met with the Minister of Police and the Minister of Justice to discuss the issue of their documentation and ensure that we can be able to bring them back to the country. The Minister of Justice and the Minister of Police made it very clear that we must not tamper with the investigations taking place, and we must ensure that, you know, if we revoke their citizenship or their permanent residency at the present moment, it will mean that the police are no longer able to summon them to come and face an answer to the various allegations which have been leveled against them. And so we are working with the police, and I think Minister Cele indicated very clearly that he will leave no stone unturned to ensure that they do come back to the country and answer to those questions. And so I think for now, given the sensitivity of those investigations and processes, we can leave it there. But the government is working very hard to ensure that we can deal with this issue.
Minister, we thank you. Thank you for coming in. Thanks for answering all of these questions. I know there's so many more, and we'll invite the Minister back in again. But more importantly, let's see the action being done on the ground. Our Minister of Home Affairs, Malusi Gigaba. Sorry, Vay, over to you. Let's get some sports news on this Monday morning.